case you don't know who I'm talking, tell him, you stop your fighting. Just like it did in 2006, when it was becoming clear that the Zionists could not defeat the power of the Islamic resistance and the resistance in South Lebanon. And America then had to turn around to Netanyahu, or whoever the Israeli leadership was at that time, and say, look, you need to back down. And there is evidence that Bolton even went to some of the Arab countries and asked them to mediate. This is documented and undisputable. So please, do not give me this garbage about America being, oh, we care about this, we did this and here, we did. America doesn't care about anyone except its own bank balance and the Zionist entity and its proponents in Washington, in New York, in Texas, in California, everywhere. America needs to worry about itself, spend money on itself, improve the homeless situation, provide education services, provide medical, and ignore the rest of the world until it's sorted itself out. Believe me, the world can survive without America's nose and interference. In fact, the world will flourish without America.
To you, is this America's war to fight?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Well, again, it's interesting. President Obama would be thrilled to hear what you're saying, because his Republican critics are saying he's not doing what the United States has been asked to do. The United States was asked to go back into Iraq by the Shia government led by Mr. Maliki and now led by
It's not
Mr.
a Shia
Obama.
government, it's an Iraqi
Obama
government.
Has been criticized for not putting boots on.
I need to step in over here, because what this gentleman is doing exactly what any American pundit and any Zionist-backed pundit, overt or covert, constantly do on TV. If you sit down, you go through all the channels, you will never see them address this issue as Iraqi or Syrian or, I don't know, Yemeni or Saudi or whatever. They will say the Sunni Saudis and the Shia Iraqis, and then this, why do you need to mention the word Shia and Sunni? You are not Muslim, it's not relevant to you. The reason you do it is to create division and to sow the seeds of sedition, to sow the seeds of fear, so that a Sunni person who is naive and gullible, or a Shia person who is naive and gullible, watching you, immediately begins to think that the other is going to cause problems.
Okay,
this is how America operates.
Thoughts. Let me just cross over to our social media networking pages and see what our viewers have to say about this.
The leader of Iran is absolutely correct. It is reflective of what the United States in the past has done in Central and South America and in Africa. America is a nation which is not at peace with peace. They're using Muslims to do their dirty job, and unfortunately our youth are being taken for a ride and brainwashed to hate other Muslims instead of focusing on our enemies and those who wish us harm. Iran's leader is absolutely right. It's the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer, and it still works fine. Divide and rule. The Brits built their empire on this.
Well, those are some of the comments there posted by our viewers as this conversation continues on our social media pages. Now, Mr. Korb, getting back to this issue of terminology, when you use terms like the Iraqi Shia government or, as Mr. Hassanally pointed out, ISIL Sunnis, for example, isn't that oversimplifying a situation that is way more complex than it meets the eye? And doesn't this simplification hold consequences?
Well, the topic of the show that you asked me to go on today was your topic, not mine, was said, and I'll show you the email that said the United States is exploiting the Sunni-Shia divide. Obviously, my colleague in London didn't get the subject. That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
No, I got it.
It was your
idea.
I got the
same subject.
And if you interrupt me once more, I'm getting up and leaving, okay? Okay. Ah, well, there you go. Okay, go back and look at your email. And if you interrupt me again, I'm not going to respond. I let you speak.
Mr. Hassanally, I would kindly request you to stop interrupting Mr. Korb and let him finish his sentence. Go ahead, Mr. Korb.
All right, I'm answering your question. You asked me basically what the United States is trying to do. The United States is trying to bring help with, there are 21 other nations that just met in Paris that basically are trying to bring stability to that area so the people can choose their own destiny. That's what we want to do. We didn't start the Arab Spring that led to Assad cracking down on his people who had peaceful protests. This was not our idea. We did not start ISIS, whatever you want to call them. We wanted to go home. We didn't want. President Obama is being criticized for not staying in Iraq and for not putting ground troops on there. So this idea that somehow the United States is trying to, no, we want to focus on the problems that our colleague in London has been talking about. Since Obama's been in office, he's cut defense spending by $1 trillion, and he's being criticized for cutting it too much. So I'm not quite sure, what the issue is. If the issue are we trying to exploit the Sunni-Shia divide, I'll be happy to talk about it. When I mentioned the government in Iraq, which is led by, has been a Shia-dominated government, I'm trying to illustrate the point that we're not picking one side over the other, and somehow that we're aiding the Sunnis against the Shias. No, we don't. That's not our issue. Our issue is to have stability in there so that the people can choose their own destiny.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hassanally.
Okay, I actually agree with the gentleman that they're not interested in supporting one side over the other. What they want is they want both sides to kill each other while they step aside, let the Muslims kill each other, Shia, Sunni, whoever, and ultimately they reap the spoils of this. This is exactly what America has done. There is someone, a wise man once said, that there are some people who say, when people go to them, a mass of people go to them, it's like a parable. They say that, please don't make mischief in the earth. Please don't create sedition and fitna and problems on the earth. And those people who are creating this sedition, who are creating all of this, they say, who, us? We're not creating any sedition. We're only peacemakers. We only want peace amongst each other. And this is exactly what Obama or Clinton or this or whoever sits in that White House, which is itself a bizarre name, is doing. If America cared genuinely about human rights, why is America not cracking down on the Rohingya Muslims that are being massacred by the Buddhist monks? Why is America so silent on what's happening in Yemen? Even though my respected colleague says that, oh, we're trying to make peace with the Houthis. My dear, you don't have to sit down and make big conferences to make peace. Everyone knows the influence that the United States of America has got on the Saudi entity. One phone call from Mr. Obama will do the job. So if you're real, like I've said to many other speakers who I've gone against like this, who I've debated with, talk is cheap. We can sit here in studios in Washington and London and say everything. But the people you're speaking for need to actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk. You can turn around and be a pundit for whoever. But if there's no real substance behind it, there's nothing. The reason why I sit down and support the words of the leader is because it is well known that while you turn around and you say that, oh, America wants to help defeat ISIS, Iran, 3 hours, according to some accounts, from the point that Mosul was falling, Iran had immediately said to the Iraqi government, the Arab Muslim Iraqi government, that's another way you could describe it. It doesn't have to be called Shia, yeah? You can choose the correct words if you want to. You don't have to use words that are divisive.
Right. Now, Mr. Korb, let me give you the last answer over here. Very quickly, if you can, just summing up what Mr. Hassanally had to say, how important is it when you're condemning or trying to fight a group like ISIL that you stop and stem the financial support as well as the ideological support that they're getting from countries like Saudi Arabia?
Well, again, we've tried to stop them. You talk about picking up the phone. Saudi Arabia is an independently wealthy country. They can pretty much do what they want. And as I mentioned, they didn't even show up when Obama asked them to come to the summit to discuss. So the king didn't come. He didn't come. Okay. He did not.
Look, let's be honest, right? Everyone knows the influence that America has on Saudi Arabia. This is to turn around and say, oh, they're independent. They're independent? Really? They're about as independent as the Zionists.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you gentlemen here. Unfortunately, time's gotten the better of us. Hopefully we can continue this discussion at a later date here on Press TV. I'd like to thank activist and Islamic scholar Shabbir Hassanally, who joined us from London, and joining us from studios in Washington is former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense Lawrence J. Korb. And of course, your viewers for joining us in this edition of The Debate. For me and the entire team here in Tehran, it's goodbye.